I'm feeling quite emotional this morning. I've just watched a BBC Panorama documentary on Britain's crumbling schools that aired last night. It's sickening. It's a national disgrace. All the press coverage that the issue received last year with RARC and crumbling schools, it's amounted to very little meaningful action being taken. Children are sitting in classrooms freezing. Children sitting in classrooms with no heating, having to wear coats and gloves in order to stay warm. I hesitate to use such a strong word, but I think it's absolutely disgusting. How is it possible that the government isn't doing more? The Department for Education has written a blog post yesterday. I guess it knew that people would be Googling the issue after watching the documentary. They say that nothing is more important than the safety of pupils and teachers. They also say that we regularly monitor the condition of school buildings across England, and our recent condition survey shows that over 95% are in good or satisfactory condition. After having just watched this programme, this feels like nothing short of gaslighting. I guess some might argue that the documentary focuses on the 5%. But we'll look at the wider evidence in a minute because this clearly is not the case. The blog post also says that our school rebuilding programme is transforming 500 schools in the most need of renovation. So let's just look a little bit closer at that. The school's rebuilding programme started 2 years ago in 2021. The plan was that 500 new schools will be built over the next 10 years. On average, that means 50 schools a year to be built. After 2 years, 4 schools have been completed. Now, I googled how long does it take to build a school, and it seems that it's around 18 to 24 months. That means that after 2 years we should have at least 50 new schools completed. Further evidence of the government's failings came out of last year's National Audit Office report on the condition of school buildings. The Audit Office brief is somewhat restricted to assessing whether the DfE's spending is value for money. It wasn't, for example, making an overall assessment of whether the government was spending enough on fixing schools. However, the report does say that following years of underinvestment, the estate's overall condition is declining and around 700,000 pupils are learning in a school that needs major rebuilding or refurbishment. As I say, the Audit Office is restricted to looking at value for money in terms of DfE's spending. It's not looking whether the Department for Education analysis is right. I suspect that the problem's much bigger than the DfE estimates. The Audit Office also identifies the key issue, money. It concludes that there's a significant gap between the funding available, that which DfE assesses it needs, to achieve its aim for school buildings to be safe and a good condition. It sets out how the funding process worked for school buildings. DfE reported that 7 billion could represent the best practice level of annual capital funding. It recommended 5.3 billion a year as the capital funding required to maintain schools and mitigate the most serious risks. DfE actually requested an average of 4 billion a year for 2021 to 25. The Treasury subsequently allocated an average of 3.1 billion a year. So the DfE's assessment was that 7 billion a year is required for best practice, and the Treasury has allocated 3.1 billion, less than half of what is required. It's reported this morning that lower interest rates have reduced government borrowing for December, and that this perhaps increases the amount available for pre-election tax cuts to £20 billion, far more than what the DfE has assessed is needed for school rebuilding. Why don't we spend the spare money on that? The government is completely going in the wrong direction. It wants to increase taxes because it claims that this will stimulate growth. It won't. Rather, it's purely a last-ditch attempt to get people to vote Conservative in the election later this year. The government should actually be increasing taxes in order to sort this problem out as a matter of urgency. This is a national emergency. No child should be sitting in a classroom with no heating or leaky roofs. We can do so much better than this. We need to increase taxes to get this sorted. But as I always say, not taxing ordinary people, we need to tax the massive wealth in the UK through some kind of wealth or land tax. We need bold politicians that'll stand up and ask rich people to join in a programme of national renewal. We need a politician to say it's going to cost X billion pounds to sort out the schools all within a short time frame. This would provide a massive boost to the economy rather than a tax cut which will do the opposite. Plus, we're investing in the future. We need to increase taxes to get this sorted. But as I always say, not taxing ordinary people, not taxing income. We need to tax the massive wealth in the UK through some kind of wealth or land tax. We need bold politicians that are going to stand up and ask rich people to join in a programme of national renewal. We need a politician to say it's going to cost X billion pounds to sort out all the schools within a short time frame. This would provide a massive boost to the economy as opposed to a tax cut which will do the opposite. Plus, we're investing in the future productivity of the UK. We have a massive productivity problem, and this is an investment that we need to make today for the UK economy to grow significantly in the next decades. It's not about getting re-elected this year. It's about ensuring that our children don't have to try and write with gloves on ever again. I think that the super wealthy could be co-opted into this kind of project. The actual amount of money needed is small in relation to the level of wealth in the UK. I think that the idea of every child having state-of-the-art schools and learning facilities could be sold to the UK's super rich. I wish we had politicians that could do this. I hope you found this information useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.